through conversations with our valued customers, we've recognized the need for a standalone digital toolkit that can be used hand in hand with your psychology recommended readings. And today, our Digital Services Director, Rob Lowe, will be taking us through a demo of the Psychology Toolkit and how it can support you in the shift to online and blended learning. Also on the panel with us today, we have our wonderful colleagues Afsana, Isabel, Alice and Geeta, who are all on hand to support you with any questions or comments you may have. So before I hand over to Rob, my colleague Afsana will just take us through some quick housekeeping slides. Thank you, Afsana.
Thank you, Bea. Can we quickly do a sound check? Can everybody just raise their hands if they can hear me? Oh, yes, got one. Okay, thank you. So before we begin, as we mentioned, myself, Bea, Isabel, Alice, and Geeta are on hand to manage the chat box and Q&A and support any questions you guys might have. During the actual webinar itself, if you are having any kind of audio connection issues during the call, I would recommend calling in using your phone. Otherwise, obviously, you can pick up your phone as well. Just bearing in mind, if you do have to run using a high bandwidth platform like Netflix or YouTube, that could also impact session. So the session will be recorded, so if you do miss anything and do connect to issues, don't worry, we will be sending and there will be a Q&A opportunity at the end of the call as well. And finally, in terms of engagement and asking questions, so you might have noticed we do have all the TVs on mute, so there's not too much sound during the call. You can also use the chat box to ask questions and engage with us, so that should be on the right hand side of the screen. And the Q&A section where you can any questions and we will take those and answer them. And I will now pass over to Rob to begin.
Thank you very much for that, Afsana. I just noticed that your sound was a little bit in and out there. So just to recap, we've got a Q&A section to ask for questions during the webinar, and we've also got the chat box for general comments. So do feel free to put your comments into our boxes and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. So now over to Rob to show us the new Psychology Toolkit. Thanks so much, Rob.
Thanks, Bea. Thanks, Afsana, and good afternoon and good evening to those online today. Pleasure to be here, and thanks for taking the time to look inside the new Psychology Toolkit. So we've got lots to cover today. Perhaps I'm just going through the session. Feel free to chat in what your delivery for September onwards looks like. We're hearing lots of things from various departments. Some are going completely online. Some are sort of moving to blended options, and some are sort of doing something else. So it'd be great to hear more from those online today around those biggest challenges that you're facing, and hopefully we can sort of pinpoint some of those and actually sort of address them through the next few minutes. So what we're going to go through today is a little bit of an overview and a background, a bit of a story of what we've heard from psychology departments over the last few months and what we've put together and the reasons why. Then we're going to dive into a sort of more in-depth dive into the new toolkit before sort of going through the analytics and service and delivery options available. So the summary really of why we're here and what we've sort of created has been driven by the feedback that a number of people on this call have sort of provided us and other sort of areas of the sort of psychology system. So what we've heard, so first and foremost, is time is a massive issue. We went from a move everything online overnight back in March and April to then how do we do assessments online, how do we mark, how do we sort of grade, and how do we assess, and then in the last sort of few weeks, it's right now what's going to happen in September, what's going to happen with the new academic year. We haven't got time to sort of do something completely different. You know, we don't want to change certain things of the course. What we want to do is sort of make it as engaging as possible. We hear from students that they want instant feedback. How are we going to provide that instant feedback if they're sort of working virtually, or if we're only seeing them for maybe an hour every couple of weeks if a lot of things are done online. we then sort of got into the sort of more granular detail, and we know that obviously sort of being a science, psychology, there's a huge amount of sort of scientific sort of reasoning, critical thinking requirements, and we know that just providing readings and journal articles and things like that isn't going to sort of ensure that students can critically evaluate the pieces of work and the articles that many psychology departments require their students to read. And what we've heard, I think, from everyone is that students still hate reading, and how are they now going to read if they don't have access to resources, and how are they going to apply their knowledge. So one of the things that we've done, again, specifically here for psychology departments, is start to sort of build out a repository to really help psychology departments have access on demand to very, very strong resources and a variety of resources that can help support the academic delivery. You know, this isn't you use a McGraw Hill textbook. This is just you can continue to use whatever textbook that you're using. You have a number of I guess sort of areas of delivery where there is no textbook. There's lots of articles. There's lots of sort of journals. There's a long reading list. This is more about the sort of teaching and learning side of it, and what we can provide to sort of make that easier and more engaging. And so everything that you're about to see is accessible directly into and through the LMS or the VLE. So if you're using Blackboard, Canvas, Moodle, whatever that might be, we're able to place these resources directly into the interface that you're using. And a lot of the resources that you've seen, where they've been used in other places, are either standalone resources or sort of embedded into assessment, has actually been shown to increase sort of student satisfaction, retention, and engagement. And as I said before, that sort of wide range and diverse suite of resources can help that sort of learning cycle. Now, I know that a lot of people on the call might have seen Connect before. So for those that haven't, just to give you a little bit of background, Connect is where we house all of our traditional reading materials, often layered with an adaptive, personalised reader called SmartBook. And then together with that reading experience, there's a large suite of teaching and learning tools, tools that can be used for assessment, and lots of sort of practice material that students have access to once assigned by teaching teams. All of the pieces of work in Connect are typically tagged to sort of learning outcomes and blooms. So what we've essentially done is start to pull all of those materials together from across our psychology portfolio into one easy-to-use repository and toolkit. So what we've done and why the toolkit is the key area is really to help link that theory to practice, and most importantly for the teaching teams and the academic teams is to really reduce that heavy lifting. So rather than sort of going all over the place to try and find engaging resources, we've pulled everything together that will hopefully encourage sort of that critical thinking, the application, and where needed, we'll provide those students with linking to practice and the instant feedback required, and a huge time save for teaching teams. So as we sort of dive deeper into the solution, the first thing just to sort of make everyone aware of is the fact that we have a 24/7 student support setup. So depending on how and when this is used, students have the ability to sort of use this as a self-service, self-paced learning tool. It can also be assigned by specific academics. And if students have any technical issues, that support is there together with the sort of learner onboarding at the start of semester as well. So as I mentioned before, we've sort of pulled everything together into the toolkit. So you'll see the traditional discipline-specific question banks and teaching resources. We then started to layer in our sort of more sort of in-depth immersive content, such as the Power Process, which I'll sort of talk you through in a moment, which is our reading tool designed for when you're assigning journal articles for consideration and critical thinking. We've also introduced our scientific reasoning resources that have been mapped throughout all of the various disciplines. And then together with our analytics package, you have the option of using this solution for assessment. especially as it can be sort of integrated directly into the learning management system that you may have. And then finally, we've added our newest simulation suites to sort of help sort of provide students a sort of different type of learning experience, a little bit more interactive, perhaps more engaging, so students can have a sort of wide range of different types of learning tools. So we've covered sort of 10 to 15 different core areas of psychology, but please, if there's any specific areas that you need coverage on and that you can't see in the package, please let us know and we're able to work with you to upload those. Similarly, we've spoken to a number of people that would like to actually sort of integrate some of their own materials, obviously articles and sort of readings that might be under license through sort of library partners. Those can be uploaded, as can sort of other local department resources as well. These slides will be circulated, but just to give you a sort of bit of a flavour, we've got a wide range of coverage, and for those users that require a Dutch test bank, we've also integrated our traditional Dutch test banks in there as well. So as I mentioned before, the delivery can be sort of integrated throughout the LMS, or it can be used as a standalone resource. Completely depends on the preference of the department. All the training is provided depending on how you want to roll this out, and something new that we've done is just sort of make access extremely easy. So we've developed a 1, 2 or 3 year access window. So if you like students to have access to these resources for the entire undergraduate 3-year study, that can be done. Equally, if this is just a rolling year-to-year option, that can also be done, and we can sort of work with you to set things up so it's sort of assigned and sort of monitored by the academic team, or we can work with you to sort of build out a self-study repository for the students to sort of dip in and out as they wish. And then together with that, the engagement statistics, we can sort of work with you to sort of talk you through what is happening from a sort of engagement side as well. And we've also integrated our assessment functionality to allow you to assign pieces of work for assessments, again, sort of in or outside of the LMS, and to sort of mimic testing, sort of the testing sort of logistics side, so various sort of proctoring resources as well. And as I mentioned before, we've got that ongoing technical support as well. I'm just going to pause there. I'm not sure if there's been any questions, V, just while I jump into the live overview.
No questions so far, so thank you very much.
Wonderful. So hopefully you're still able to see a browser here on screen. This is a student view of what the toolkit might look like, and like I said, this is just sort of one sort of version of it. So I've sort of housed everything in one place. What you're able to do is house it in sort of multiple places depending on how you'd want to sort of interact with the material. But as you can see here, there's a sort of wide range of material, and as you sort of jump into the sort of different areas, you're able to see the sort of different types of learning resources that are available. As I mentioned before, we have a sort of full sort of student orientation piece at the start. At any point, you can sort of direct out to the McGraw Hill technical team should any students require it. So the first area I just wanted to sort of dive into a little bit more detail is our critical thinking tool, Power Process. So this is designed for when you're looking to have students read an article or a research paper, some sort of piece of work that you'd like students to critically evaluate. So you have the option of uploading your own documents, you have the option of picking from our repository of journals, or you have the option of encouraging students to actually sort of find a piece of research and uploading it themselves and then critically evaluate it. So as part of the package, all of our psychology journals are housed within, and they're sort of metadata tagged so you can quickly identify the ones that you would like to use. From there, you have the ability to sort of ensure students are following that systematic process of critical thinking. So you have the option of adding sort of a number of different elements. So things like before the reading, considering the title, considering the prerequisite knowledge before you read the piece of work. And then during the reading, you have a number of different options. So evaluate the methodology, consider the sort of environment in which the study was conducted. And then after, critically evaluate the follow-up and the findings. And students will then run through this as they go. They're able to highlight and make notes on the sort of different areas. So this is just an abstract of one. They're able to save those notes, and then they'll also be able to populate a response. And then as a teaching team, you would see all of these, and then you'd be able to grade them from there. The next area that we've sort of embedded is some of our sort of interactive, immersive content for the sort of anatomy behind certain areas of psychology. So this is the sort of neurons and the anatomy behind Alzheimer's disease. So paired with videos and sort of descriptive content are a number of questions that you can have students answer. Again, these can be set for practice, they could be set for assessment. You'll get the analytics depending on how you set that up. The next area are the scientific reasoning questions. So this is where we're just sort of adding that sort of little bit of interactivity. We have a transcript and video available, and there's a short piece of work, a sort of short video to review, and then again some questions here. And you'll see that some questions are sort of single, others are multi-part as well. And then next is our newest feature to the Psychology Suite, which is our quest for developmental psychology. So I'll turn the sort of background noise off on here, but this imitates a number of different scenarios through the lifespan with regards to developmental psychology. So it starts all the way to almost at sort of, I think, 6 months old and goes through to settings through to 80 plus years old, and each quest involves something slightly different. So here, this is a 32-year-old mother of one traveling with her husband through an airport. So you're able to navigate around and follow the instructions, and then make decisions based on the scenario that's been played out. So you have the situation, so you can decide what happens next. As I say, this is, you have the transcript, but also the volume as well. And then as you go through the decision-making process, all of the analytics are sort of captured, so you're able to see those from a student's point of view as well. And then finally, that sort of gamification sort of quiz style, we've also sort of integrated into some practice material as well. So you're able to sort of mix and match, and students get instant feedback to some of these areas. And finally, a number of requests have come through of integrating the material for assessment. So again, here you're able to sort of tweak the settings. So in other areas, you might have got sort of helpful resources and hints for questions. Here you have just the questions. You can sort of set time limits, and once it's been submitted, students can't see the results until you choose to release them. So it's the same types of questions, but because we've sort of added our sort of different policy features into the platform, you're able to set these for assessment, and you'll get the analytics instantly. Or equally, if you wanted to sort of add in your own questions, you're able to do that as well. So it's a bit of a whistle-stop tour of the platform. Feel free to sort of chat in any questions, and we can answer those as we go, either sort of via chat or at the end. And the sort of next part I just wanted to sort of draw people's attention to was the service and delivery. We know a lot of concerns at the moment are if we're embedding technology for September, we don't know how to use it, what support is available, so hopefully I can answer a few of those questions. So what you've seen just now is a sort of overview and I guess a sort of prototype of what it could look like. But ultimately, when we sort of work with universities, every person's delivery looks slightly different. So you might choose to start with what you've just seen and then take things that you don't need away. You might choose to have only a few of those sort of areas and topics within the department use this platform. So we're able to sort of restructure and rebuild it based on how you're looking to sort of use the resources. If you're completely new to Connect, this always comes up, that you might be overwhelmed. Do not worry, we can sort of set you up, and you'll see in a moment the service plan that's available. Great news if you already use Connect. All you need to do is just provide us with your Connect username, and I can actually sort of physically sort of push that toolkit into your account so you can review it in your own time. I can also share a student account so you can sort of experience it as a student as well. A number of people have also asked around, can we just sort of provide this for students to use as a self-study tool? And I can sort of just dip in and out for regular reports. Again, that's absolutely fine. We're sort of working with some people that might use it for assessment, others that are just providing this as an extra resource for students to link theory to practice in their own time. And the age-old question around cost and budget, we've actually sort of made a sort of conscious effort to make this as affordable as possible with sort of flat pricing. So, for instance, if you were just using this for a 1 year of access, you'd be looking around the sort of £15 per student mark for a limited access to the resource. Around that delivery and support, we hear a lot about, sort of round pegs, square holes. We've got the platform, but now we're not really sure how to use it. So that's where our implementation team come in. They would sort of work with you and your department to really understand how you want to use this, how this will sort of interact with other areas of delivery. Remembering that this really just helps you sort of do that heavy lifting sort of somewhere else. So you can sort of rely on the fact that there's a repository of teaching tools that you can use, and then sort of really focus on that sort of contact time that you'd have with the students. So we would sort of take you through that course build, whether that's using something that we've already done, like you've just seen, or maybe that's starting from scratch. And then that learner onboarding, that sort of student start, we'd understand the dynamics of your delivery, and we would be on hand if this is middle of September and you're doing a Zoom lecture for the first time. We can sort of do two things. We can sort of join that and sort of talk students through the experience. We can also provide a playlist of mini videos to support the students' access, and then maybe following of sort of hours or day after that first lecture, we actually can do a drop-in surgery, which has proven very popular with some academics, where we can actually just sort of host a Zoom meeting, come onto campus if things change sort of drastically in some areas by September, and actually support students getting sort of into the platform. And then, as I mentioned before, we have a full suite of reports and a repository for that sort of understanding of the level of knowledge for those students. And then paired with that some technical training and support, we'd hope that you'd be well supported throughout the journey. So that sort of end-to-end service is also sort of included into what you're seeing here. And so that the biggest thing that we're seeing is it really does help identify those areas of concern, especially when you might have a number of students that are coming into the course potentially at sort of undergraduate first year that haven't been in that formal education setting for a number of months. So using these tools and the analytics will sort of help you sort of track progress and understand those gaps as early as possible. And because we're seeing a sort of a wide range of I guess sort of resource types, and that sort of diverse sort of visual type, not all text heavy, we might start to see, or we expect to see, a sort of increase in engagement and perhaps sort of reducing sort of student frustration, especially if they're learning sort of online predominantly. And finally, you have that option, knowing what your assessment structure is, you can use this for assessment, but more importantly, you can help students prepare, and we can provide you with those analytics to say, well, if you're setting them some revision work, we can provide you 3 weeks out from the exam a report on the level of preparedness of those students, and then you might want to sort of put in a couple of 1-hour blocks where you specifically go back over areas that they might be struggling with that you know may well be on the exam. And that's all paired with our analytics program that's embedded throughout the platform. So what you're seeing here is a live cohort of just under 340 students. So the first sort of data point really is identifying all of the sort of interactions with Connect, just to give you a little bit of a steer as to the levels of engagement across the student body. And then at the other end of the scale, we have a really sort of granular understanding that the question that you might have set, and sort of I always look at the one here in the middle, 58% of students that are getting something right. The opportunity there to remediate the 40%, you might sort of call on one of the 60% of students that have got it right to talk their answer through with their fellow classmates. There's lots of different ways, but most importantly, if you know that that's a question that might be coming up in the exam, there could be 4 in 10 students that might struggle with that come the exam. So there's an ability there to identify, remediate, and support those students on their learning journey. And then we know that the class sizes can be pretty big in psychology. So the big data sort of Connect Insight tool within the platform allows you to quickly disseminate the relationship between time spent and score. You're able to customize a sort of perceived sort of line in the sand, as it were, sort of pass rate. So I've got this set at 70%, so you can quickly see the relationship between time spent and the scores. So 2 clicks later, from 338 students, you're able to drill into one student that has spent a significant amount of time, almost 16 hours, working on pieces that have been set. But they're averaging 47%. So this just helps you support them, and you can sort of drill down into those exact assignments as well to support the students as and when they need. And then finally, on the flip side, you're able to actually start to understand how the pieces of work that are being set are actually sort of going across the cohort. So this is sort of flipping that sort of model from the student view to your view with regards to the pieces of work that you're asking those students to do. This is particularly important where you can look at, again, that relationship between students spending a lot of time, but the average score is under the threshold. And again, perhaps sort of think about this 2 or 3 weeks out from the exam, you can then drill into those topics that are covered there and look at the sort of at-risk topics. So perhaps you can sort of then remediate all of the sort of the students that might be struggling on that, or if you're moving online, creating a Zoom group for those students that were struggling to sort of give them the confidence and support as they move forward. That concludes everything. Like I say, it's a bit of a whistle-stop tour. There's lots of information, so please do get in touch with us and sort of find out more about the toolkit, any other sort of solutions that you may be looking for, and if you sort of need any more information or access, please don't hesitate to get in touch.
Okay, thanks so much, Rob. I think we've got a couple of questions that have come through, so I'll just read some of those out. For those teaching Introduction to Psychology, is there a specific content, or will the instructor have to choose from different parts in the psychology suite?
Yep, so we do have the ability to sort of do an intro to psychology, I guess more of a standalone version, or it can be sort of embedded into the toolkit.
Okay, awesome. The next question I have here, are all the activities automatically graded or marked, or do some require manual marking?
Yeah, great question. There's some of particularly the critical thinking that require freehand responses would be manually graded. But when you're picking, so for instance, in some of those teaching areas, there might be 250 questions available in that teaching area. You're able to filter out the ones that are auto-graded, so you can sort of avoid having that headache at a later date. But the sort of more in-depth critical thinking, like the journal power process option, that would be auto-graded.
Okay, and the next question here, I'm going to actually encourage Isabel to answer as our portfolio manager for psychology. The question is, I'm teaching a module for counselling and ethics. Do you have a simulation or another tool for teaching and assessing psychology counselling skills that we can use?
Yeah, so something I think that could be quite useful for you. We have interactive case studies in the section that covers mental health and psychological disorders. And these sort of take the students through as an assistant to someone in professional practice. So if I just read a little bit out for you from one we've got here, Kathleen is a licensed clinical psychologist in private practice. She's got a particular interest in anxiety disorders, and it kind of goes through what she does and then how she deals with the patient that comes in front of her. So I think that potentially could be quite useful for that course. And we also have a series of videos with questions that talk about people's personal experiences with different mental health issues, which also might be something that could be used on that kind of course.
Okay, thank you very much, Isabel. And I just want to read out this lovely comment that we've had from somebody here as well. They're saying this is great news because they've used Connect for a life skills course and would love to see how this works with psychology. So we can definitely send you more information on that as well after this call. And another question I have here, which Rob can probably answer, which says, I think you may have answered this one already, but I use textbooks not by McGraw Hill at years 1 and 2. Can I still use the toolkit with our students?
Yeah, that's one of the sort of big feedbacks. There seems to always be a bit of a disconnect that, you know, if you're not using a McGraw Hill textbook, you can't work with McGraw Hill. This really is a standalone resource. We know how difficult it can be to sort of change textbooks, especially where there's maybe sort of a specific textbook or a reading list. So this solution can be used standalone. You know, there is absolutely no issue with assigning chapters 2, 3, and 4 from a different textbook, not one of McGraw Hill's, and then sort of use a simulation, use scientific reasoning resources, using a case study from this toolkit. That's absolutely fine.
Okay, great. Another question. Do we have anything specifically on social psychology? They really like the VR simulation that we showed, and also for cultural psychology as well.
Yeah, so the social psychology, there is a repository within here for the social psych. I'll just revert to Isabel for the cultural.
Yeah, so there isn't a specific area on cultural psychology, but there are lots of questions that do relate to cultural psychology within other banks, such as the social psychology one or the personality and individual differences. So there are definitely questions and interactivities that could be used in the area that we can help you pull out if that's something that's important to you.
Great. And then another question here, maybe I missed this, but how does the toolkit integrate with Canvas, Blackboard type of tools that universities already use?
Yep, so the solution can sit, so it's obviously a McGraw Hill Connect sort of interface, but what we're able to do is something called sort of integration and pairing. So what I guess the sort of student experience would be, and the sort of teaching team's experience would be that they would see this sort of icon within the sort of Blackboard or the Canvas interface. They would then be able to sort of link if it's practice material for week 3, they would click on the practice material for week 3, and it would take them into a simulation. So from Canvas into the simulation, and then when they finish, it would take them back into Canvas or the LMS of choice.
Okay, wonderful. Another question here from Elena. Thank you very much for your question. Can you send us a link to a demo showing the steps from logging in to working on some tasks within the platform?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we'll definitely get back to you on that, Elena. Thank you. question here from somebody saying, hi, thank you for the presentation. Is there a way that the lecturer can use Connect for their teaching individually if it is not adopted by their institution?
Yes, certainly. So there's a couple of ways depending on the subject area. Obviously, our sort of traditional use of Connect is, with a single cohort that you might be using in McGraw Hill sort of title that has Connect, and that can be sort of used just with that cohort. You also have the option here of sort of using it. It might not be used for sort of 5 or 6 different sort of areas. It might just be used for 1 or 2, and so it can be sort of used. It's not everyone in the department has to use it. It's just a repository that all can use under the license.
Okay, fantastic. And one last question I have here. Which questions and topics are covered in the Quest game? It is quite vast, covering a variety of psychology courses.
Yeah, I think we can probably circulate the coverage of that, because there's, off the top of my head, I think there's 12 or 14 different individual quests, and each one covers sort of in between sort of 6 and 8 different sort of learning objectives. And then obviously that's sort of layered across sequential sort of ages from sort of around sort of 0 to 1 years all the way through to 8 years old. So we can give you the breakdown of that coverage.
Okay, thank you very much. And we do still have a bit of time, so if anybody has any other questions, feel free to drop them into our chat boxes. I think we might just have another one coming through. Just give me a moment. Okay, one question is, how much time does it take for us to get started with the Psychology Toolkit?
That it does take time. It's not sort of hours and hours and days. That's why we put in we have an implementation team that would sort of walk you through the steps and even sort of partner with you to build the resources. What you saw there on screen, I think I added in somewhere in the region of 50 individual sort of learning tools. That took me somewhere in the region of sort of 2 to 3 hours, and that covered, I think, 11 different sort of disciplines. So it can be, it does take time, but it can also be very sort of quick depending on sort of how you'd like it set up. You can provide us with a sort of wish list of, you want, unlimited practice material for this, and this. We can actually sort of go away and sort of provide that for you and push it into the account. And the other aspect with regards to time is that it can be built on demand as well. So it might be that you build, some people choose to build everything before class starts in September. Other people might choose to do the first 2 weeks and then the next 2 weeks and so on and so forth. So we're able to support either way. So most importantly is like once it's built that first time, when you come to using it again, you just sort of duplicate it and sort of move it to the next year. So that sort of time sort of that you invest is a sort of one-time thing, and then it's just sort of tweaks moving forward. But as I say, we can factor that in when we have that initial consultation. We can actually sort of say, well, if time is tight, perhaps we use what we've already sort of built, and then we modify it from there, and then we see how that suits you and the teaching team.
Okay, and I think this is a follow-up question to the previous. So do your implementation consultants work with all universities, and will they have subject-specific expertise too? This would be very helpful.
Yep, we do have some with specific subject expertise. We also, where we sort of look at some content mapping, we also work with subject matter experts from other sort of departments to sort of help, I guess, sort of provide a sort of compelling learning experience sort of based on what you're looking to provide. So in some areas, yes, but most importantly, we have those resources available to us to help with the build.
Okay, great. And one more question we've had is, do you provide other forms of support other than technical issues, such as opportunities for panel discussions or public lectures if the university adopts this product?
Yeah, there's a range of things. Perhaps I'm not sure if Geeta's on still, just around the, I guess the DFC program and partnering in that way?
Yeah, sure. I'd happily talk about that. So there are lots of different opportunities. So we have an advocacy program for digital users of ours, so they get an opportunity to share their experiences at their own university. They can speak at conferences, but also, go to attend sort of academic conferences. So we do have some notable conferences for psychology within different streams. So there's opportunities to speak about how you're using technology on your course. But beyond that as well, obviously we do publish in pretty much most areas of psychology. So there's an opportunity to be kind of getting wide exposure from our international business as well and the market. So yeah, lots of opportunities beyond just the technical, and we like to work in partnership with our customers. So yeah, lots of opportunities for sure. And actually, Dee, who's here, is also looking at sort of the development of more content in psychology, so articles, which we know is a very loved thing in psychology. So that's something that we are definitely looking to develop too. So a real vast opportunity from spoken, written, to networking with peers as well. So yeah, definitely an opportunity. Really good question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Geeta. And definitely, we are always looking for representatives to talk about our Connect platform and contribute to our blog as well. So if you do have expertise in psychology or are interested in the DFC program, please do feel free to get in touch. I'm just checking if we have any other questions. So just give us a few minutes just in case anyone's typing some up.
Just to follow up on, I think the question around getting access to a demo. I mentioned before, if we can also sort of send a sort of demo login for the student side, but if anyone wants instant access to what they've just seen and they have an existing Connect account, just please drop us an email sort of immediately after, or sort of private message on the chat box, and we can actually sort of push that, what you've just seen, into your account this afternoon, so you're able to sort of view that instantly as well.
Okay, fantastic. I don't think we've had any other questions coming through, but I just wanted to let you guys know that we can still take questions even after this webinar is over. So please do feel free to drop us any questions or comments you may have. This brings us to the end of our session if there aren't any other questions. So thank you all for taking part and asking such engaging questions as well. This webinar has been recorded and will be sent round to you following the session. Please do not hesitate to reach out if you do have any further questions, and remember that you can stay connected with us on LinkedIn, Twitter and Facebook. So thank you so much, and I hope you have a great day.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.